And we're live.
What's up, guys? Welcome to the very first episode of Kinda Funny Studio Ghibli Miyazaki in Review. That's right. We are ranking and reviewing every movie written and directed by Hayao Miyazaki. I'm very, very, very excited about this, and I know many of you are as well. There was so much demand for this in review. This and Nolan were two of the most popular, most demanded in reviews of all time, and we're doing both of them at the same time every week, Tuesdays and Fridays. Tuesday, Nolan. Fridays, Miyazaki, right here live on twitch.tv/kindoffunnygames. If you want to watch later, you can do that on youtube.com/kindoffunny or roosterteeth.com. If you want to listen, you have that option as well. Just search for Kinda Funny Reviews on your favorite podcast service and we'll be there for you. If you want to get the show ad-free, you can go to patreon.com/kindoffunny. You get both shows. That's fantastic. You get Nolan and Miyazaki, both ad-free, and you can be a Patreon producer like Mohammed and Al Tribesman. We appreciate all of you very much. I also appreciate Carter Harrell for making the music in the intro to this, and of course Cameron Kennedy making the video. We now have the dream team going forward. The two of them will be making all the intros for in review, and they're bringing the heat. They're bringing the hotness. As always, I'm Tim Gettys, joined by Kevin Coelho. Andy Cortez.
Kev, can we maybe get Nick cropped a little bit better? The beard just isn't in frame.
Yeah, it looks like Nick needs help. Tim needs a little help. There's some issues. I don't know. People move around, you know?
It's fine.
Move around. Okay. And joining us for the entire run of this series, which is very, very, very exciting, Ubisoft's own Belinda Garcia.
Yay!
So excited to be here for 11 weeks. Yep, every Friday.
Yeah. We got months of this for both Nolan and Miyazaki. We're strapping in, and it's
Super
people
excited.
are saying word in the street is that this is about to be the highest quality run of in review that we've ever had in terms of movies. So we'll see. I don't know if it's going to match up to X-Men, but maybe.
What can? Tim, what can?
Yeah, it's a very
do you remember Basketball Boy?
Mm-hmm. The classic basketball boy.
I miss that little fucker.
Belinda, how are you doing?
Great. Busy week, as you all probably know, but I'm excited to talk about Lupin today.
Have you seen this one before?
No, I saw it last night for the first time, and I really, really enjoyed it.
So we talked over the last couple of weeks about like all the rest of our kind of history with these Ghibli movies, which kind of seems like none of us have seen all of them. And in fact, I think Kevin has seen the most, probably. I've only seen like 2. Andy, where you at? 3. Nick?
I don't think I've seen any of them, honestly, except for Cagliostro, which I watched many years ago and have watched many times since.
Have you seen My Neighbor Totoro?
No.
I feel like I've heard you talk about that. No?
I know the name and I know the art from it, and I think it's funny, but I mean, I think I've sat down to watch Spirited Away a bunch of times and it just didn't materialize for some reason. Like I queued it up and then something took me away from it.
I haven't seen Spirited Away and the latest one, but me and Paula like recently, maybe like 6 months ago, watched most of them. We went through and just watched most of them, except for this one.
I'm super excited. I love all of the quality in animation, and as somebody who grew up wanting to do that, it just always blows me away the level of detail and love that gets put into just here. This environment, this cityscape, where this like field is going to be on screen for 2 seconds, and it's like the most intricate painting you've ever seen. Like it's so good.
There's multiple.
Belinda, what about you when it comes to these movies?
I think I've seen most of them. I haven't seen Nausicaa. I haven't seen Cagliostro, and I haven't seen Ponyo, and I think those are the 3 that I haven't seen.
Belinda, I think if you've seen one castle, you've seen them all, right?
Castle in the Sky, Castle of Cagliostro.
Do you guys know that?
Castle.
A fun fact is that they're all the same castle design.
Oh, wow.
Is that true?
Is there a theory that connects all of them?
That's not true at all.
Okay, thank you.
No, but I want to riff off of something Andy said earlier, which was that like there are there's multiple moments in Castle of Cagliostro where they just take a second for you to just look around, and they don't need to do that. And to Andy's point, like it took resources. There's one specifically that always stands out, and I love it because it's just a moment of like reflection and relaxation before the action really kicks in. And it's where they get the flat tire, and Lupin's just staring at the horizon, like he's just staring out at the sky. We see a bird fly by, and then there's another shot of this gorgeous panoramic scenery shot, and I'm like, that must have taken someone weeks to make this.
And you
didn't need it to be in there, but it's so beautiful that I just want to be in that world for a second.
The facts I got for this one are pretty crazy and shocking, because everything you guys just said is so true. There's a Captain Christian YouTube video. He's my favorite video essay guy, about Miyazaki's movies and like what makes them special. And he really kind of focused on the sound design, and how much of a character just that alone is, but combined with how it's never just about the foreground art. It's also about the background art and characters. And he compared it to Disney movies, and he showed specific scenes where it's like you see Hunchback of Notre Dame or Beauty and the Beast, and it's like, watch this scene, and when you watch it, it's beautiful, and you're focusing on Belle and whatever's happening. It's like, cool, now focus on the background as this is going, and it's just like faceless CG like noise. Like it's nothing at all. Whereas then he compares to any of these Studio Ghibli movies, and there's so many, every single background character has a personality and has something going on. And what's shocking about this is this entire movie was made in 4 months.
That's crazy.
4 months. So today we're talking about the Castle of Cagliostro. The alt title is Lupin III, Castle of Cagliostro, released on December 15th, 1979. The American theatrical debut was on April 3rd, 1991, with the home release following the following year.
Wow, that's a long time.
It is. Yeah.
Sam, sorry, say that again. That was 1991?
In theaters, it came out in 92 in America. 1979 originally in Japan.
Oh, crazy. Okay.
But they were kind of trying to chase that Disney high of the Renaissance. But there was 2 dubs for this done, and there's a lot of weird licensing stuff. So Lupin in general is a manga series, anime series, like kind of just a character, like it's a franchise. And you kind of see in this movie, this is the second Lupin movie actually, but this is the directorial debut of Miyazaki. But it's taking the characters and world of Lupin and just kind of making a movie out of it. And like Kev, we were talking before the show, but like the characters introduced in this are in the entire series. So it's kind of like Zenigata, is that his name?
Zenigata.
He's kind of like Team Rocket.
He's cool.
You know what I mean? Like, just always chasing.
I mean, he's the good cop that's trying to right. He's not a dick cop. He's trying to catch.
He's legitimately a good inspector. He just but you kind of get the vibe in this, and I love the ending moment in this where he's like, I got to go after him because he wants to, because he likes having the challenge, and he actually kind of likes Wolf, despite the fact that he acts outwardly that he hates him. You know, it's that fun like back and forth dynamic of like, you're breaking the law, but I respect it,
dude. It's like The Rock. It's The Rock and Vin Diesel, dude.
Exactly.
Like, you know, The Rock's like,
you just gotta team up sometimes.
Like, yeah, I love it, dude.
But yeah, so the movie had 2 dubs, and the biggest reason for that is that there's a lot of weird licensing situations going on with Lupin itself. The IP holder, like the creator of Lupin, didn't want certain things being said or done or whatever. And what happened with that is, for a long time, they lost the license to the name Lupin, and they couldn't say Lupin, which is why in the Netflix version we watched, they call him the Wolf. Like, you never hear
which
the
is
word
cool
Lupin.
Too.
They could have the logo, but they couldn't say it, which is weird. So they called him the Wolf, which was a kind of loose translation from Rupin, which is wolf in Japanese. So it's like that's how they got there.
I think Lupin means wolf in Italian as well.
Greek too, right? Roman. One of those.
A lot of wolves then. Too many wolves. But the interesting thing for me is we watched, if we watched on Netflix, which I think we all did, that is the first dub, actually, which is why it says wolf and it has all that stuff. And like there's a lot more mistranslations than
there's a lot of mistranslations.
Then the second, because if you watch with the subtitle English subtitles,
it's so bad.
It's very different.
So bad.
But people actually like the dub of this one.
I like the dub for the performances and the voices that they cast. I think it's great. But I clicked over. I've seen the dub so many times that when I was doing the notes for this, periodically I was like, that's a really weird thing for them to say. And I'd click back over to the original Japanese with subtitles. Way different.
I watched
way different. Where they're just, it's way more noir, and it's way more written a little bit more like straightforward to the characters. A lot less romancy, weird, and kind of cringy and creepy in moments.
Yeah, I switched over to the sub just because of how different. It wasn't just word differences or semantics. It was the complete sentences were just written.
Like whole context is
totally different. Yeah, like and it was too different for me to want to watch it the whole time that way. So I just switched over to the sub.
Yeah,
so
there's one
second
moment
dub that they did is a lot more faithful. to the actual Japanese context and all of it, and Lupin's voice in the other
David
dub,
Hayter.
David fucking Hayter, Solid
Oh,
Snake himself.
Whoa.
Which is cool
so
as
funny.
hell.
It's so funny because when I was younger, I saw I think this original dub because I can't remember, but I remember seeing this in the 90s. I had the VHS of this. My buddy and I would just we would buy VHS of just random anime that we found at like Sam Goody because that was the only place that sold anime in the 90s.
Dude,
And we would
Sam
just
Goody.
every like couple weeks when we had money, we would go and randomly pick movies out based literally on the cover. And I remember buying this, being like, "This sounds cool. Like it's about a thief, and it looks kind of fun." And the main character reminded me of Jim Carrey at the time, so I was like, "I think this could be cool."
I love Jim Carrey.
No, I think my buddy bought like Full Metal Alchemist or something like that, and so we would trade. But I remember watching this, and I was like, "Holy shit! I hit the jackpot! This is." I just thought it was really, really good, and it wasn't until like literally 20 years later when we started doing Kind of Funny, and I started like talking about it on camera. People were like, that's like one of like held in really, really high regard. And I was like, I had no idea. I just thought I was a stupid kid, and like, I just picked it randomly out of the bunch.
I'll never forget. It was in 2015. It was when we first started Kind of Funny, and we were at Greg's old house, and we were at the kitchen table. It was just me and you while they were doing Colin and Greg live, and you're just like, "Have you ever seen this Castle of Cagliostro?" And I thought it was the most random thing for Nick Scarpino to bring up. And I Googled it. I was like, Lupin the Third. I was like, what the fuck, Nick? Like, why would you have ever watched this? And then, you just had that moment where you realize like it's a Miyazaki thing, and like, oh shit, this isn't just something I watched when I was young. It's like actually like an important thing.
Well, and it's important to note too, because I've watched a few other of the Lupin movies, and unfortunately, there are a lot of them out there that are lackluster, and I think it's because they're not Miyazaki. I don't know. I mean, I don't have a lot of context for Lupin, so I don't want to get torn apart by the hardcore Lupin fans. But I've tried watching. I think there's a ton of them on Amazon right now, and I think you can rent a few. Some of them might even be on Prime. They just don't have the same general charm. Yeah, that this one has. And I don't know if it's the story or potentially, again, this might just be my first touchstone to Lupin in general. And again, I'm watching this with a metric ton of nostalgia going into it. Because I literally remember being like, my parents they're like, we don't want to watch this movie anymore. You have to go upstairs to their room, and I had to put it in their VCR and just sit on my parents' bed and watch it again because they were like, we're tired of this kid watching this fucking movie over and over again.
You were like 10, right?
I probably was for like 12 or 13 maybe when this was probably junior high for me when we started this entree into anime. This is like right around the time when like. Obviously the first movie that we found was Akira. That was sort of the gateway drug for all of these things. Oh, yeah. And we were chasing that high. I mean, ever since when you watch Akira and that's the first time you've ever seen an anime movie, you're chasing that high forever. You're like, I got to find something better than this. Guess what? It's difficult to beat that one. But we watched Ninja Scroll and Wicked City and a bunch of other cool, crazy movies you probably can't get now.
That chasing that high is the same way I feel about Cowboy Bebop. Like that's one of the first.
Is another one.
That's one of the first animes that I actually watched and then kind of felt like there's got to be something else out there as good as this, and I feel like I never quite found it. Like everything else is like there's a lot of other really good stuff, but I just feel like the mix of everything in Bebop was just incredible. I had a blast with this movie. I thought this movie was really fun and weird at times, and of course there's some like creepy Japanese shit in there as well. With like the waitress.
Did you read the sub or watch the dub? Sorry, which one
I listened to the sub. Yeah,
you listened. I
had Japanese audio with the.
Got
sub.
It. Okay. Yeah. So like it's way creepier if you watch it in English.
Wait, what did you think was creepy?
There's like the scene with the waitress where he was like being really creepy with her. There's a lot of weird shit, but then also like the monsters. I was like, what the fuck is happening? I was scared.
Like shoots with the fingers.
Hold on, before we get into our thoughts on this, let me get through the stuff here. So this wasn't really well received in America, and even in Japan, people liked it, but it did not make much money. In America, Otaku USA's review compared this shift to a James Bond movie where James Bond stayed at Motel 6 and his Bondmobile was a Toyota Camry.
That's perfect. That is a perfect way to put
type
this.
of Fiat.
It was insulting.
Yeah.
But anyways, this is directed by Hayao Miyazaki, born January 5th, 1941, still alive. Japanese animator, filmmaker, screenwriter, author, and manga artist. He's a co-founder of Studio Ghibli, a film and animation studio. He has attained international acclaim as a masterful storyteller and as a maker of animated feature films, and is widely regarded as one of the most accomplished filmmakers in history of animation. Castle of Cagliostro marked his debut as a theatrical movie director, but he also was a writer, designer, and storyboardist on the movie. The budget was roughly $2 million. The box office was roughly $2.5 million. Not good. And a runtime of 1 hour and 40 minutes. But yeah,
hey man, you can't put a price tag on art. You can't put a price tag on art. You know what I mean?
Well, that's the crazy thing. Like I was saying earlier, because the film had such a tight production schedule, the production only took 4 months. Miyazaki claimed he had to alter the script in post-production to complete the film on time for release. He never revealed what his original scripted idea was, but he has expressed dissatisfaction with the completed film. And also, the last fun fact I got for you here is this is the only Miyazaki film to not have been scored by Joe Hisaishi, who makes some dope shit. But the score for this is dope as fuck too.
So fun. I loved it.
I'll kick it off. I love this
for it.
movie. I think it's. I mean, again, I'm coming through with so much nostalgia, but there's it's just so amazing to watch the tone they nail in this, which goes from like legitimately heartfelt to completely silly to like legit fun action. And it's. I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the actual like theme and the jazz score behind this, which I think just puts you immediately in that, like, we're in a 1970s James Bond film and we're just going to have so much fun and we're going to see some crazy shit happen and they're going to fight on a clock. And then you take that, but I think it was purposefully written, or at least the character is so wonderfully done because he is sort of like the spy thief kind of motif, but he's done on a budget, but it's done purposefully where he doesn't need all the high-end gadgets. Like the moment that always stands out in my mind on this, which perfectly illustrates Lupin in general, is when he's sitting on top of the rooftop and he's trying to light the rocket, and the rocket starts falling down, and he starts unspooling it, and it stops for a second, and then he goes, "We're okay," and then he reaches down to get it, and it ends up with just him running down and like hopping on top of the building, and then like hugging the tower. Like,
I love that running animation. That running animation is so good. Like you can feel his speed picking up as he's like running down, and like he can't control it.
It's funny
so well done.
When
the sound
that
design,
scene, I
too.
remember thinking like I've been there. Like I've ran that. You know what I mean? Where you run so fast, you're like, fuck, I can't stop. I just have to keep running and hope I don't fall.
That's you in the Sean. That's the Sean Finnegan racing video.
No, you have to do it downhill,
or that's you going from the kitchen to the office to the studio.
Never. I'm always in control in those situations.
But yeah, but I just love this character, and I think they nail it right. This character it's perfect because you never know if he's got a plan or not. And if that plan in his brain, he's always like, it's going to work. But you're like, do you think that's going to work? And it's always just keeping you on your toes. And at the end, he just kind of comes up gold somehow, whether it's through cunning or cleverness or just sheer dumb luck or good-natured luck. And that's what I love.
So many moments where I like genuinely was like surprised, like when he ends up being the priest, like at the end, I was like, oh snap, I didn't see that coming. And there's a lot of moments like that I really.
What happened to the real bishop? What'd they do with him?
What was really fun for me is like looking at this, and because I mean, it's fucking old. I mean, 79. Mm-hmm. It's like to think about the animation going on around that time. It's like, yes, there's a lot of Disney movies that predate that have always wowed me of how intricate some of the elements can be. Like even just looking at like Sleeping Beauty is like the background art of that is every single frame looks like a painting. Like, it's just, right. I mean, in some ways it is, but I was really, really impressed because like there's so many elements of this that remind me of Scooby-Doo. And then you compare this to Scooby-Doo, like him revealing he's the person, whatever, where I'm like, this is so impressive that it actually transcends and reminds me more of Mission Impossible than Scooby-Doo, even though I think it has more similarities to the Scoobster, you know?
One really minor thing that was like, oh, it's interesting the way they phrase that is the Archbishop of the Vatican. That's just the Pope. Why didn't they just call him the Pope? You know?
Copyright, Kev. Copyright.
Yeah, exactly. And the other
can't say Lupin, can't say the Pope.
I'm just saying they might have murdered the Pope. Is all I'm saying.
Again, I had fun with this. I thought it was super stylish and again at times really bizarre. Like there's some moments in this movie where I didn't understand the reality of what the world this movie took place in until it was kind of revealed towards the end that those creepy things were just people in suits.
Armor,
Yeah, I love the sort of the mythos behind this place and how he tried to break in at one time, and also she was really young when he like look. Hey, here's the thing:
It wasn't
when she
sexual
was
back
like,
then.
That
It
was
wasn't
where I
sexual.
stopped
It
the
wasn't sexual
dub.
for him. Like he's not.
What
a
happened,
pedo.
Belinda?
In the dub, he says something like, "I turned the charm on, but she was really young, or she was too young to see the charm." And I was like, "What?" And then that's when I stopped the dub.
So the
So, yeah,
problem,
if
the
you scroll
problem
that
with
part
it,
back, by the way, sorry, just to clarify, if you scroll that part back, that is not what he says in Japanese.
Yeah, I
In
was like,
Japanese,
"There's
he
no
says,
way."
I thought I was a goner. That's all he says. He was like,
Yeah.
I saw this vision of this like angel, and I thought I was a goner, and that's it.
yeah, the I guess they should have made him look way younger there,
Right.
and it would have like felt better.
He looks the same.
I mean, I don't think it was supposed
Yeah.
to feel good though.
16 or 17 in the
Well,
movie.
yeah.
I think she was supposed to be like young.
Yeah, she was
Yeah.
9, right? When he.
What is
She was
weird?
9, yeah.
It's weird because the way it ends, you get that sense where he's like, you know, he says in the dub, he's like, "I love you like a sister," like this.
Right.
But I'm like, I don't
Yeah.
think that's how you were setting this up with
Yeah.
the English translation. And I feel like that might be just a sign of the times of like in America, there always has to be a weird romance shoehorned in where and why I don't understand why he could just be like, I'm here to save her and honestly to get the treasure.
Because she
that's-
saved
See,
me,
I'm on the
so
other
I
side.
just
I
saved
think
her.
the American version handled it a little bit better. Like there might be one line
I don't want
with
the
the
full
exception of that.
Japanese version, so I should say that.
Because because I feel like the Japanese stuff, there was some weird undertones and like just the way she was acting towards him. Where I was like in America, they were like she like a sister. I love you like a sister. Like they clear it up, which I thought was kind of key.
what happens
Another
in
thing
the,
about
in
Lupin
the
that's
subs?
important to keep in mind is that this movie is the only time that they kind of treat him like a good guy. Usually he's way more of a bad guy. Like he is like in this movie, he's a thief, but usually like he's actually a bad dude. Like he's a criminal, and that was part of the criticism for this movie and why it kind of didn't do too great, even in Japan. Is they're like, well, this isn't Lupin.
Does he hurt people?
Interesting. That's funny because my touchstone is that this is Lupin. That's why I think I probably had a negative reaction to some of those other movies that are out there. I don't remember him being ever like necessarily a bad guy. I've seen 2 other movies that he's in, and it's similar, but it's there. Those are a lot more geared toward the heist, whereas I think this one's a little bit more about him needing to save the princess because he owes her a debt because she saved him back in the day. And it has less to do. Like at the end of this one, he doesn't seem disappointed. In fact, I think he figured out what the prize was early on and realized that the whole thing is more about him illustrated to the world that he figured it out and what he can do than anything else.
The prize was so random.
Yeah,
It's
I love
weird.
it. I love it. That was like
I
love
rewinded.
how
I was like, "Wait, did I
movie
miss
is.
something?"
Yeah, because that's kind of it comes out of nowhere in a movie that I feel like sets everything up very well, and like I love how complicated this is. Like it looks like a kids movie, and it's like kids will enjoy it, but it's like I love that it's different than how we talk about Pixar movies, where it's like kids and adults can enjoy it. It's like this kind of has like the twists and turns and is set up and just the characters act in ways that I'm like, like there's more going on here than just kind of like save the princess, even though on the surface it looks like that.
Well, I think again, I'm sorry. I think what I was trying to say a little bit there, I got a little muddled up, was that at the end of this, you realize that for Lupin, it's about the adventure and not necessarily about the prize. And I think that's what this movie does so well is you get to the end of it, and as an audience member, if it handled poorly, you'd feel cheated. You're like, wait a minute, he didn't get the prize, he didn't get the money. But at the end of this, you go, he's just off to another adventure. And that's what the most important thing is, that he keeps going and finds the next fun thing to do. Because to him, that's why he has the life of a thief. It's not about, the destination. It's more about the journey.
Let's get to the plot.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Castle of Cagliostro, which I have misspelled literally every single time I typed it on this document.
I don't know if it's spelled right in the title, if I'm being honest.
I have no idea either.
Probably not.
I spelled it. I keep spelling it with a G for some reason. I don't know why.
It does have a G
in there. Does it really?
Yeah.
Cagliostro?
Cagliostro.
C-A-G.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm an H. I mean, it doesn't matter. Let's move on. There's an Italian letter that's a li, which is spelled differently. Doesn't matter. We'll move on. Anyway, we start, and I think this first image perfectly sums up this entire movie. It's Lupin and Jigen, and they're just climbing down the side of this giant building with this tiny little rope and these oversized bags of money. And you're like, that doesn't look safe at all. But when they get to the bottom, of course, After playfully hurdling some objects, they stuff all that money into their yellow Fiat as security guards give chase, but of course soon realize all too soon that Lupin has sabotaged all of their vehicles. And I love when one of them comes to a little halt, the hood pops up, and there's a note from Lupin that says, "Keep up the good work."
Gotcha.
Just
and they're also and the cars are cut in half and shit.
Just like, how much time did you spend doing that?
It's very like Joker-esque, where like it's fun, but he fucked up all your cars.
Yeah, a lot of property damage.
Caused a lot of money. As they drive down the freeway, we hear some amazing 70s music play as they're laughing, and Jigen says, "We're millionaires," and everyone's very excited at first, until Lupin, of course, astutely realizes, and as he looks closer to the money, he's like, "Damn it, it's counterfeit." But it's the greatest job of counterfeiting he's ever seen, and they gotta find out who's done it, so that they not that they can stop him, Tim, so that they can move in and take over the business. That's what he really wants.
I get it, man. Making sense.
I think your theory of that he doesn't care about the treasure, like it's reflected there, because he's not like, "Fuck, we don't have this money." It's like, "Dang, look at this counterfeit money. Who made
let's
this?
figure this out."
Yeah, it's and to him, I think that's a perfect example of he has 1 second where he's like, "Oh darn, the money's not there," but at the end of the day, it's more exciting for him to let's go figure out who this next villain is that we're gonna screw over or have some fun with or whatever.
It's the rock with the safe moment, opening the safe, being like,
yeah,
fucking Vinny, baby, come on.
After you again. I'll give you 10 seconds. Anyway, the pair laugh as Jigen starts comically throwing the money out the window. He goes, "I sure hope you know what you're doing, boss. Because if this money's not counterfeit, we're wasting a lot of it." And then we get the amazing title sequence, which is with music from, I think, Fire Treasure is the name of the band that made this very somber and a beautiful song. And again, this is another one of those examples. You did not need this title sequence in this movie. It is very long and beautiful, and it is probably took up at least a few days, I imagine, of quite a few animators to do. But I went back and watched it twice because I was like, this is stunning. There's just them going down the horizon as the sun setting in the background and all that stuff. But they, as that ends, we arrive in Cagliostro, a small country with a population of 3,500, but they still speak Italian, I think. So it's the best language ever. I love, again, another sign of the times that you could. There's no way you could make an animated film, even if it was rated R, with this much smoking in it. There's just an ashtray full of cigarette butts. Yeah. And Kevin and I don't know if Kevin ever went through this phase, but when I was young and I used to smoke cigarettes a lot, and I was always out of money, there would be moments where I'd look down into the ashtray and be like, "God, I bet I could get a couple more drags off of that." But
I did not go through
not
that
someone
phase,
else's.
Nick.
Well, you're better than I am. But I love that Jigen always has sort of like a cigarette hanging out of his mouth, and it's always crooked and messed up, and he just doesn't care. Let's see, and then this is the next, another perfect example of sort of I don't know if it was just they ran out of time to explain it, but he goes, "How did you figure out where this was taking place?" And he was like, "Purely, but just a process of elimination." Which translation, who gives a fuck? We just want to get.
I knew where it wasn't happening.
Yeah,
so.
We just got to get to the action. Who cares? Of course, they get a flat tire and they Rochambeau for it out of the sunroof, which is hilarious. And then Jigen loses, so he goes to change the flat tire, and we are again treated to another wonderful quiet moment where Lupin just looks up and we see a bird flying overhead, and then we see, just where they're at. We're just there for a second.
Of course, calm before the storm. It's so
exactly that has the dual reasons for that. One, because it's beautiful, and two, because this movie has just an unbelievably great sense of comedic pacing. Because this is cut, of course, juxtaposed with a car coming around the corner, tearing on the corner bend, driven by a young woman in a wedding dress. She's been chased by some goons in the car behind them, and I love this so much because follow me on this one, guys. There's a movie that you guys have probably seen. I'm sure everyone has. It's an Edgar Wright film called Hot Fuzz. And there's a moment in Hot Fuzz where they get in the car and it's that quick smash where he goes, "Punch that shit." And it's every single time he says something, it's another shot of them cramming it into gear. This reminds me of that so much because Lupin literally kicks the hood down, slides in, pulls the thing. We see the turbo in the back light up, and then they're just off. And if you're going to tell me that Edgar Wright didn't see this film and take inspiration from that, I have no way of proving or disproving
that. Dude,
So
the way the trunk opened up.
Steven Spielberg got some inspiration for this for action scenes in Indiana Jones, which is cool.
I mean, this looks like the Indiana Jones scene in 4, unfortunately, where they're going through the all this stuff. But of course, then the jazz kicks off, and I love it so much. They give chase, accompanied by another sensational score. Jigen asks, "Who are we going to help?" And he goes, "The girl." And he goes, "I should have known." I love this scene. They eventually, of course, get the better of the goons. Jigen tries to shoot the tires out. He's like, "Oh my god, everything's armor proof. These guys have a lot of money." And then eventually, I think they even try throwing a grenade at them at some point. But they get
the bad guys throw those grenades.
Yeah, those
the
19 like 20 long grenades.
Yeah. What are they called?
Potato mashers, like the World War II.
Oh yeah.
Jigen, of course, figures out that the bullets that the tires are armored, so he uses an armor-piercing bullet and just destroys the goon's car. Of course, their car gets destroyed as well. And I love the comicalness of he has to jump into hers. It hits a little embankment and then slowly careens over the edge where he's trying to drive it and stop it, but it's just completely broken. And then he uses his grappling hook to hook onto a tree limb, literally hanging there by a limb. And that's another great moment for me where he's got it here. And he's holding her, and he opens up his belt and starts slowly lowering them with this little janky ass mechanism. And of course, it breaks. He falls. The tree limb falls on him, knocks him out, and the girl is unfortunately. What's up, Gav?
I was gonna say I love how there's that moment where it cuts back to the tree, pulling out, and it's like, oh shit, they're falling, and it's like, oh, they fell 6 feet. It was fine.
Yeah.
I really like the tree falling on him part because I think that we're now 5 minutes in this movie, if even, and it totally sets up the world and it sets up where we're at, which is cool. This is a little bit more adult. People are smoking. We're using fucking grenades. That's terrifying. There's guns involved. These characters are holding guns and shooting at each other, and then you can still fall off. You're not going to die, and a tree's going to fall on your head. It's just going to knock you out a little bit. It's right. I love that where it's it makes you feel safe, but it also makes it feel like it's going to be a fun time. It's not going to be super dark and gritty, but it's going to have those elements to push the story forward. So it's a mature plot, but the fun of a cartoon mashed together.
Love it. At no point are you going to see someone smashed by giant clock hands. Oh wait, you are. You're
okay.
That was fucked up. That and the gear death, where you don't see either of those deaths, but
there's no blood, but you're oh yikes.
With both of those, though, I think that's such a great use of it because they build the world so that when that does happen, you're oh fuck, that actually means something. It's not just there's been people dying left and right the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. Of course, Clarisse attempts to nurse Lupin back to health, but is chased off into the woods when a boat full of the goons comes to get her. Jigen catches up and spots the goons taking Clarisse off into the boat. Of course, and Lupin looks down and finds her glove, inside of which there is a ring with the emblem of, is it a goat or a ram?
Goat.
What would we say?
The Aquarius. It's the Aquarius symbol.
We'll say Aquarius. He said goat, but I thought goat. I didn't think goats have
it's a
horns
goat.
like that.
It's the top of a goat and a fish bottom. You guys never seen the Aquarius symbol?
Never. I've tried to swim in aquariums before, though.
No, you haven't, you liar. You're not a rule breaker. No way you would do that. I would 100%.
I'm going to be honest. I never, Kev, I have not seen an Aquarius. You just a goat with a fish bottom?
Yeah.
Dude, I'm Aquarius. I don't even know what that is.
I'm trying to pull up an image.
It's the Starbucks logo. We'll just go with that. Anyway, Lupin is pissed.
Oh, wait, is it Capricorn?
Capricorn's the goat. Yeah,
it's Capricorn. Okay, it's whatever. It's one of the celestial symbols. Capricorn.
It's Capricorn.
I'm
gonna go with the Milky Way, and we'll move on. They drive
But Nick,
what's up?
I think he said "Hey goat" like the way Mark Wahlberg says it.
Hey goat.
That's it. That's all we need.
Cool.
Andy, there you go.
Hey, goat. I think I found a transformer. Anyway, they drive over to the burnt wreckage of an old deserted castle, and Jigen spots the same emblem from the ring on the castle archway. It was, of course, the old royal palace. The prince was killed when the place burned down, but now they have a new ruler, and Lupin knows exactly who that is. He goes over for a stroll over to the gazebo to reflect, and we get some more amazing landscape imagery. Of course, Jigen, this is such a fun, silly moment where you get how deep their friendship runs, where you hear this weird beat where it's and he's like, "You're holding out on me." Or is this maybe that's later?
No, it's later. It's later.
Oh, is that later? Okay.
It's several times.
After they go to the castle.
That's
right?
When does he put him in the wrestler's hold?
It's after they go to the castle, and he and you could tell Lupin is putting shit together.
Yeah, he's side-eyeing him because
Jigen's like, "Come on, bro."
Oh, no, this is that part. No, this is that part. Sorry, because I have it in my notes. Is you're holding out on me, and then he puts him in the wrestling holds. So this is that moment. Sorry. Anyway, he goes, it all started 10 years ago. And he's like, what all started 10 years ago? And he's like, at the time, the royal family had a lot of money. And you know how I've always been attracted to people with a lot of money. He tells the tale of the castle of Cagliostro, which is attached to the clock tower of the royal palace. Then he looks down and he spots the goons' boat that took Clarisse. And they're loading, driving into like a little dry dock at the bottom of the castle. And 10 years ago, Lupin tried to break in and it nearly cost him his life. And then overhead, they spot the Count's custom auto gyro flying back to the castle. No doubt the Count is behind the counterfeiting. Let's see, the Count lands, and he is greeted by his butler, Jodo, who gives him an update on what happened that morning with Clarisse. He gives the order to find and kill Lupin and Jigen. When he reaches Clarisse's room, he dismisses the blonde maid and heads in. And it's very, very creepy in here, kind of like an Egyptian night motif. But like it's definitely a room you would think, and I love the art direction behind this because it's a room that you would paint and have for like a child, but she's no longer a child. And I think it's interesting to see that juxtaposition where she's like fighting to get out of the hold of this guy, and she's no longer the kid that Lupin knows. She's trying to come into her own. And I think by the end of it, that's the whole point, right? Let's see. When he tries to compare rings to hers, of course, he notices that hers is gone, and he is not happy about that. But Andy has great hair, and that counts for something. You know, you look at the Count's hair in this, and you're like, someone respects hair.
Now he also has the bottom half of his face that looks like a frog, like he's just got this weird sort of vibe going on.
He doesn't have a strong jaw.
Yeah.
He does not have a strong jaw.
He's creepy as shit. He's creepy as shit.
Dude,
Great
when he
choice
gets
in
his
helmet
on though, later,
great choice
he
in
looks
helmets.
sick.
Right, and the cape with the cape.
Oh
my
my
God.
Yeah.
He does the Batman thing with the cape.
Yeah.
It's like, you don't know what's going on.
He's the Count.
You guys know that a long time ago when I was drum major of my high school marching band, I was assistant drum major sophomore year and then lead drum major junior senior year. No big deal. I wore a cape and I did that a lot.
But Linda, he rang the little triangle to keep everyone on beat.
Oh, wow.
Kevin, you know what? I don't care. Make fun of me. You're just showing your own ignorance because those are the people in the pit, and those are the people that couldn't march. Anyway, later that night at the pub, Lupin examines the inscription on the ring, and I'm going to get this wrong because I'm quoting from the English dub, but it says, "When with light and shadow as once more, it shall surely be restored," or something like that. And I'm like, that's cryptic. But we get it. We need both. We need both the rings to solve whatever this thing is. Lupin tries to scam on the waitress, and this is that moment that Andy talked about earlier that you're like, what the fuck? That does not age well. And they spot a guy spying on them. Jigen calls him out for knowing all along that the girl was a princess, and he's like, no, I didn't know she was a princess. He's like, you are not telling me everything, but I respect our adventure together and our friendship and your privacy. Later that night, Lupin, again, another great part where Lupin's has this little makeshift lab that he has that's really just like a Bunsen burner and some shit that might explode in his face.
In the Bunsen burner, he's like blowing to keep the flame going.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
It's so great. And then Jigen hears someone. He says, "We got visitors approaching," and so you're like, "Damn, Jigen fucking gets it, man." They arm themselves and are soon attacked by these incredibly scary assassins. And then Lupin uses that same Bunsen burner to blind them. It's a great shot where he's like, "Hey," and he's wearing the glasses, and it's just this blinding light coming out of this thing, and he just throws it onto the ground. And
in the sub, I have to keep rewinding because I don't know if Jigen ever said we have visitors. Because they just sort of, in a sub, it felt like I probably missed it. Granted, because I'm very scatterbrained, as y'all know. But I feel like they just sort of came, like they looked at each other, were like, yeah, some shit's about to go down right now, and they start putting out their stuff carefully, and they're like, all right, let's prepare for what's about to happen.
Listen,
and then
Andy,
like the goddamn what were the bad guys in X-Men Days of Future Past? That's what they reminded me of.
Sentinels?
The Sentinels?
The way the Sentinels looked, like, I guess more of appearance-wise, they were so scary, dude.
They, of course, use the burner to blind them, and then they jump out the window, and they give a little bit of chase, and they get away. Back at the castle, the blonde maid sneaks around, and to the uninitiated, you guys might be like, who the hell is this? But, of course, she's not a maid at all. She is Fujiko. And Fujiko is another hallmark and staple of the franchises.
This is moment number one for me where I was like, this is fucking cool as hell. Like, this is deep, and this is a lot more Mission Impossible than I would have expected from this movie.
Right.
Dude, Fujiko has first off, the most hype moment of this whole thing. Not hype, but to me, the best moment of this whole thing is when she's the camera op and she's just knocking fools out.
Yeah.
And then Zenigata's like, I don't know what's down here. He's like, and then she's like, I must follow him with a handheld. And then she just ends up having, from this movie, she goes from being like this maid in disguise to it being in full camo with a fucking Uzi and like a knife strapped to her. And she's just blasting fools.
She's like sniper is like when they're escaping and she just jumps off and then she has like wings and then she just flies away and you're like, what the fuck?
I love
the
line.
Come from?
I can't remember the line, but like when she does that, she's like, hey, this was fun, but this was enough adventure for today. See you guys later.
Yeah, I love that. Let's see. She uses a peephole to spy on the Count, who is pissed off at the latest round of counterfeit money turned out badly. He's interrupted by Jodo, who is wearing, by the way, I like that he's wearing one of the assassin costumes. He's one of the guys that went out for them. He reports they lost the foreigners, and then the Count spots a note on his back. When he pulls it off, of course, it's from Lupin, and it says, "You son of a bitch, I hate to spoil your wedding plans, but I'm going to steal your bride. It would be a waste of your time to try and stop me." And then this is a great reaction from the Count here, where he's like, "I welcome another go with the wolf." He's like, "Oh, this guy thinks he's going to get me, but I got him the first time. I'll get him a second time." Out in the rain. And now I want you guys to understand this, because you maybe don't appreciate what you've seen at this next moment. So I'm going to just take my time describing this. We have a horse-drawn carriage that pops up, and it's carrying a man with a samurai sword. And his name is Goemon. And he is fucking everything. So if you guys disrespect him at all for the rest of this review, I will have Kevin end you. That is how it's going to go. And by that I mean, unless it's Kevin, in which case I have no power over that. He can do whatever he wants with it.
He has great hair.
I guess. Thank you,
great
Andy.
hair. Who, Kevin or Goemon? Fantastic. Of course, they've set up camp at the old palace so they can keep eyes on the castle. Who should they spot rolling in? Of course, Inspector Zenigata. Listen, everyone, the gang's all here now. He is, of course, a chief inspector from Interpol. Zenigata tells the Count about Wolf and the others, and he offers the Count their protection. But of course, the Count is a smug asshole to the inspector and brushes him off. Zenigata checks the security on the grounds, and it's state of the art with motion textures and active laser guns.
What the fuck?
Awesome. And they're creepy as shit too. I love the design of these things because they look like cameras, and they just kind of slowly roll in, and then they start shooting lasers at things.
They look kind of old school, but then they like shoot lasers, and you're like, whoa.
It's so cool that they didn't like actually draw like a red line. It's just the laser hitting whatever it's hitting, and it's like
it's again, Belinda, with the tech in this, like you sort of lose where you're at. Like you don't really have a sense of time or reality in this world that they're building, because
it's like
and also the Count has this weird like copter that like little sky ship.
Auto gyro.
Like, it's so bizarre, and I just love that they can do that and it feels normal.
It feels fantastical, like but also real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, just shout out to the art direction behind this, which is Miyazaki and his team. Like it could have been a helicopter, Andy. It should have been a helicopter, Andy. But somebody somewhere spotted this weird auto gyro.
Well, he
half
loves
plane,
them.
half helicopter.
Doesn't Miyazaki love those?
The like walkway to the tower, it goes like
it like telescopes out,
and then it comes back. Yeah.
Those little touches, you're right, just add to the sort of fantastic nature of this. But then they do a good job of sort of grounding it so that it's a believable tale, but it's also fantastical, and it's really fun to do that. Anyway, back to the plot. Again, I made a note here. You guys, I don't think any of you guys grew up in the 80s. Who was the oldest here other than me? Andy, when were you born?
88.
88. Okay, so you caught a little bit of this, but guys, if you don't know, there was nothing more terrifying in the 80s. There's nothing more terrifying in the 80s than lasers. Those were the scariest thing you could possibly imagine.
No, he most certainly did not.
Andy grew up in the 90s. Lasers were fucking cool.
Were you scared of lasers?
Nah, not really.
Dude, when laser pointers came on at the market, everyone that was in the 90s was like, these are so cool. Everyone from the 80s was like, those are dangerous weapons. Those are weapons. Do you understand me? Be careful. Of course, Zenigata ain't no fool. This security is way too elaborate for just a castle, and it makes him wonder what they're hiding. Goemon asks Wolf why, and I love this moment because Goemon just gets it. He rolls up and he's like, I know exactly what's going on here. He asks Wolf why he called Zenigata, and Jigen's like, you called Zenigata? And Wolf's like, do you not know me? Have you not rolled with me before? Of course I called them. All the pieces, of course, are in play, and it's all part of my plan. That night, Wolf and Jigen approach the castle by water. Another just silly and great scene where there's no dialogue. Also worth pointing out, even underwater, Jigen's still wearing his hat. Still wearing the fedora.
I love
Cool.
it. There's
I
so many
respect it
stupid
so
elements
much.
like
So
that.
many dumb, and they just skate that line between genius and absurd so well.
Right.
Like you're
I mean,
not sure if they're idiots or just geniuses the entire time.
This entire
Like
bit
when
to me
Lupin-
is exactly that, where it's like
Yeah.
it feels like it could be Scooby-Doo, but it feels more Metal Gear Solid. Like
Mhm.
it's just like I'm like I buy it in the way that it's cool, but then there's the moments where it's like he's up in the fish fountain, like where's he coming out? The fountain, and they run over to him, and he's just like hiding
He
in the
looks-
fish. It's so stupid, but it's like
There's a
it
moment where there's
works.
like water falling and he's like swimming through the
trying to
water.
swim past it.
Yeah, and it's just like there's no way. But it's so
But the look,
funny.
I have that written here, the look of terror on his face. So the look goes from like, I can do this, and then when it starts going down,
Yeah.
he has this one little flash of terror as he's like, shit, I'm not gonna do this, not gonna work. And he goes back down. I love the scene, I love everything about it. Wolf, of course, Jigen pops up near the lasers, and then he has to pop back down. Wolf is nowhere to be seen. They get split up. He heads back to pick up Goemon. Inside, the castle banquet is in full effect as Zenigata and his men guard the exterior walls. Zenigata, of course, spots a windmill and he that's pulling water in from the lake, and he knows that's just the kind of entrance that Wolf would try to exploit. So he goes over there, and this is that shot that Tim was talking about, where he's receded back into it and he's looking out. And again, just shout out to how good the art is in this. The blur effect through the water, Andy, where he's looking and Zenigata pokes his head in and his head's like just blurry, like wavy back and
Yeah.
forth.
It's
It's spot
all
on.
distorting and shit.
It's
Yeah,
so
really cool.
perfect, and it's comical, and it's silly, and it's just beautifully done. Let's see. Of course, sure enough, Wolf spots him. All that stuff. Zenigata gets a message from HQ at the last second. They've been pulled off the case. When he runs off to check, Lupin gets out of the fountain and takes off his wetsuit to reveal that he is, of course, dressed like Zenigata. When Zenigata hits the office of the Count to have a word with him about being pulled off the case, he's stopped by Gustav, the Count's head guard. Zenigata gives up and leaves. Moments later, Wolf shows up and yells at Gustav, claiming that the prior Zenigata was, in fact, the Wolf. Gustav, embarrassed, grabs his guards, and they run after the inspector. And I just love the low-key rivalry between the castle guards and the inspector's men. Where it's just like he's attacking, that's the Wolf, we got to get him, and then the inspector's men see it, like they're attacking the inspector, let's get him, and they just clash on the stairway. It's just that wonderful like Spartan 300 moment where they're just
So
clashing with the
comical.
riot shields. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Dude, and it's a testament to the quality of character writing in this that we're all of us, for the most part, like first introduced to these characters for the first time. We don't have history of knowledge of who they are and their relationships, right?
Mhm.
And you see this, and Lupin is dressed as him and does the whole switcheroo of saying, "Oh yeah, like that wasn't him, or that was me, whatever." And it's like we buy it and we get it and we understand. It's clear what just happened. I feel like so many movies, like even nowadays, spy movies, like you'd be watching it, it's just like I'm confused at what
Right.
is actually
Yeah.
going on. But in this, it's super clear and it's clever, and it totally you're on Lupin's side where you're just like, get fucked, Zenigami.
Yeah,
Yep.
you immediately buy into their character dynamic, and you kind of automatically know they've had a lot of history together. You know, it's really cool.
The Count, of course. Let's see, Gustav, the guard secretary. Zenigata chases Wolf down a hallway, but of course falls prey to that trapdoor. And we see Wolf just like doing the Mission Impossible thing where he's popped up on the ceiling because he knew there was a trapdoor there. It spits
like
out
that-
comically a picture of whoever it just got dropped to their death, presumably.
I was gonna say I like that right before the inspector comes in, he's like jumping around, like he knows there's a trap there, and like
Yeah.
he's trying to figure out how do I get around this, and then he jumps up and gets out of the way and lets them get to the trap.
It's so good. Yeah, and of course he resets the trap, which Jodo and Gustav didn't account for, and they get sucked in as well. But they save themselves last second. The Count orders Jodo to tell Zenigata's men that the inspector has been called back to Paris and has left, and they should leave as well. Up in the armory, Wolf sneaks up on Fujiko as she's snapping pictures of files in the Count's safe. Wolf tries to play it off like he's like, I've been looking for you the whole time. She's like, bullshit, you've been looking for Clarisse. I know exactly where you're at. She tells him that Clarisse is in the tower, and he's like, all right, let's drop the pretense. I gotta go get her. Cut to, of course, Wolf straight up just scaling the outside wall of the tower, and there are multiple. This is again another. This is so well directed because it's an animated movie, but I start getting the sweaty palms. I'm like, he's gonna fall. It's really high up. Yeah. And I know it's a cartoon, but I'm like, I'm believing this 100%.
Convenient they didn't put lasers on it. That's all I'm saying.
You don't need lasers up there. Lasers don't work at those heights, Kevin. They don't work at those heights.
You weren't born in the 80s. You weren't born in the 80s.
You don't know. They work in space.
Tim, it's not an irrational fear, okay? It's not whether you're paranoid, it's whether you're paranoid enough, Tim, about the lasers.
Fair.
As a man who's had lasers alter his eyes, you should know the power of lasers. He reaches the top of the tower, and
that's a great rebuttal. You got him good, Nick. You got him good.
Of course, he crawls. This is the scene I was talking about earlier, where he scales even higher, and then he hits. He's just like sort of teetering on the pinnacle of it, and it starts trying to light the rocket. Right, this is scaling even higher. Whatever, right here. Oh, he uses his grappling hook to reach the summit, where he attempts to line up a rocket with a tiny little rope attached to it. And you're like, what are you gonna do with that rope? A momentary slip of the rocket, and it starts to fall. He climbs down to grab it, starts unspooling the thing, and then of course finds himself quickly before he knows it, running down the side of the rooftop. And we get the great score over here where it's like as he hops, skips, and jumps, and then
the
slams
sound
onto the tower.
So awesome.
And just
so great.
hug, and you just have that moment where you see him with his arms and his legs hugging the side of the round part of the tower as he starts to slip down. You're like, he's not going to be able to hold that forever. And then he throws a grappling hook one more time, ends up climbing up, and he rappels down into the princess's bedroom, or I should say prison, actually. And she says, who's there? And he says, a thief. And with your permission, I've come to help. And he returns her ring to her and tells her he's come to rescue her from the Count. To repay him, she offers him the ring, and she's told it's been worth a fortune, but Wolf only wants to be her hero. This is another one of those where I think I want to go back and watch this scene in the original translation, or the original Japanese, because in this translation it's kind of weird with the dub. Of course, she tells him to leave now. She gets excited at first, and then she realizes who he's up against, and she's like, you should just get out of here now before it's too late, because it's the Count and he's going to kill you. And then Wolf pulls a little magic trick on her and gives her a flower, and he says faith can work miracles.
That's a dumb trick.
And then he goes, now, do you know how I'm going to get us out of here? Because if you do, I'd really like to know. And it's just a great little moment where it's like, does he have a plan to get out of here? We don't really know. Of course, moments later, the Count comes in. Let's see. Oh, excuse me. The light pops on, and the Count's assassins all file in. And it's a super scary moment. Wolf squares off against the Count, who, as it turns out, wants the ring, but must marry the princess first to legitimize his ownership of it. Wolf flexes really hard until the Count activates another trap door, but in the most just G'd out sense. He falls with his hands still in his pocket, staring at the Count. And it's so dope. Because you're like, oh, I think he knew this was going to happen, or he's just dumb luck. Who knows? The Count creeps out real hard on Clarisse. His house walks the path of darkness, but now that they're going to get married, they can they reap the rewards promised by the Cagliostro legend. The treasure of Cagliostro will be revealed to them. And then he starts getting kind of violent, trying to take the ring away from her, until Lupin's voice comes over a speaker, which we then figure out is coming through the fake ring that Lupin has given to her. And then it was all a ploy to figure out the Count's plan.
So weird. This is all like,
I loved this.
I was so confused while this is happening. The talking to the little dice, like, what the fuck is happening in this scene right now?
Nick, earlier you said that he doesn't have all the cool 007 gadgets, but he does. He's got so many little gadgets where it's like, what do you do? Why is it a dice?
Why is it a dice?
Why not?
Yeah.
That's something you have in your pocket. You know what I mean?
I don't know. Of course, the Count sends water down after him and then orders Jodo.
Hold on. I do have a question. Why not? It's just something you have in your pocket. Do you just have dice in your pocket, Kev?
I mean,
empty your pockets right now.
Right now, I got fake pants on. You know what I mean?
Tim,
Yeah.
Tim, it's one of those things you gotta understand. Like, sometimes you have dice in your pocket, and in the 80s, lasers were scary.
You're right. You're right. We're learning a lot today.
Yeah.
Okay, back to the plot, Nick. Sorry.
I feel like you
Wait,
guys are
Tim,
not...
Tim, real quick, just so
respecting
you
this.
know, I'm talking about in what 79 when this movie came out. People didn't have phones. They ain't got all of these video games they can play on their phone. They got to sit there and be like, "Hey, what number you think it's gonna be?"
Exactly, Kevin.
6?
Exactly.
Well, ladies
You're
and
not-
gentlemen,
you're
if
nailing
you
that.
want to buy some dice, you can. And if you want to do that, let me tell you that this episode is brought to you by Honey. We all shop online a lot, but did you know you can make online shopping even better? You can with Honey. Honey is the free online shopping tool that saves you money online. Honey automatically finds the best promo codes and applies them to your cart, which makes online shopping finally feel as easy as it's supposed to. I guarantee that Kevin can find a sweet deal on some dice right now if he tried, and he'd be saving some money with Honey. Ooh, that rhymed and was fun to say. All you got to do is you install it once in your browser, and then it just does the work for you automatically without you even needing to do anything. You go to your favorite online store, whether it's Best Buy or Amazon or Etsy or any of that stuff, anything. There's like thousands of stores that you can go to that this works with. When you go to check out of your cart, it'll automatically apply the best coupons it can find and save you money. Kind of Funny saved thousands of dollars from doing this without even having to do anything. We installed it once and it just did it for us. Not using Honey is literally passing up free money. It's free to use and installs in just a few seconds. Plus, now it's part of the PayPal family. You can get Honey for free at joinhoney.com/morning. That's joinhoney.com/morning to start saving money today. Right, Kev?
And here's what
Yep.
Kevin, just like you, Kevin, I used it on MeUndies yesterday.
Oh.
Got a little 3-pack, and
Boom.
it immediately runs through so many different like there's like
It's
the
cool,
Rogan, there's the Joe Rogan promo code. There's the oh God, I think it's my brother and me, or whether it's one of the McElroy brothers things, and it goes through all these different promo codes. And yeah, I got a 15% off of the little 3-pack. Got
Andy,
the pink lemonade.
I did too.
Joinhoney.com/morning.
Really excited.
2 days ago, I did the same thing.
Yeah.
Of course, the Count, back to the plot, realizing that Wolf is still alive, orders Jodo to flush out the trap door and sends water down after him, and then orders Jodo and his men to go down there and make sure he's dead. Left alone in the dark, Clarisse picks up the flower that Lupin gave her. It's a nice tender moment. Down in the dungeon, of course, Lupin lowers himself onto a mountain of bones. Zenigata, of course, has been trapped down there for a while and spots him and tries to arrest him, but then comes to realization, is like, sure, we're both stuck down here, so there's no point in trying to arrest you because I can't take you out of there. They seek not to learn the castle of Cagliostro or something that's, I guess, written on the wall, and then they realize that all the people who are down here weren't necessarily killed by the Count. Those are people through the years who have come trying to find the treasure and have, of course, been stuck in this dungeon or thrown into the dungeon and died trying to do that. More of Gustav's assassins sneak up on them as they sleep. And I love this moment too, because when they make their move, they find Lupin and Zenigata's clothes are there, but they're stuffed with skeletons, and it's a double trap. Lupin and Zenigata and the inspector pounce on them and swap clothes with them, and then we get a fun scene where one of them gets away, and Lupin just jumps in his chonies and starts swimming after him. And as he's swimming real hard,
aggressively.
yeah, he kills that guy. That guy's dead. But they, of course, use the assassin's clothes to try and get out of there, and they fool Gustav and Jodo into thinking that they're more of their men. And
not all of their
trap
clothes.
Them.
Just the glove, right? Just the glove and the helmet.
I think it was like the top part. Yeah.
I don't think they even wear the helmet. I think they just float it just enough to grab his hand. Another terrifying thing.
Yeah.
When you think of it from the perspective of the bad guy, these guys can be very scary.
Yeah, they're terrifying. It's very good use of costumes. As they escape, though, of course, they're now in the lower levels of the castle, where they find the counterfeit printing press, and they just and then Lupin gives Zenigata a little bit of lesson. It's like the Cagliostros have been running this counterfeit ring for centuries, and they've been ruling the world's economy through conspiracies and assassinations. So basically, they've just been printing their own money and using it to get more and more powerful through the ages.
But I love how big the plot just got right there.
Right.
Pretty big.
It's just like it just goes from like, oh, he's trying to steal some money. Oh, they're counterfeiting to, oh, they've been running the
They
world.
rule the world.
Bro, they brought in Napoleon at one point. They just got an image of Napoleon.
Yeah,
And you're like, this is a big deal, guys.
Yeah.
If you paint Napoleon into a picture, you better fucking back it up. Put some lasers on. You know what I'm talking about? Make him fucking super scary. Anyway, he's made his point. Zenigata is in. But they cannot arrest him. Counterfeiting apparently isn't illegal in Cagliostro, which I guess if you started your own country and you were a
I don't
counterfeiter,
think that's
that
how
makes
it
sense.
works, though. I think
I know, I
Interpol
love that, though.
works like without borders that way, as long as you're part of Interpol, right?
I have no idea. I'm pretty sure that other countries would at least have a little bit of a problem with it. But the whole point is that he was supposed to be running
everyone.
shit. Yeah. And everyone's kind of in on this plot at the highest levels. Up in the tower, Fujiko says her goodbyes to Clarisse. She says, she was like, I was poised here to make, excuse me. She was poised as her maid, and I spelled maid wrong, which is what threw me out of that one, to have the run of the castle in hopes of finding the treasure. But now that Wolf's here, shit's about to get crazy, and she does not want to get caught up in it. She can tell Clarisse is in love with Wolf. She was like, listen, I used to be there too. I was once in love with him as well, but he's not exactly the marrying type. Just got to be FYI. Before they get too far into it, a fire breaks out.
I love the sub, the Japanese sub. There's at the very, very end, Clarisse is like, did he break your heart? Did he leave you? She's like, oh, God, no. I left him.
Yeah.
And it's really cool.
That's great. Of course, across the lake, Goemon and Jigen spot the smoke, and that's the sign they've been waiting for. The goons descend on the basement fire, and Lupin and Zenigata use that as an opportunity to escape. They run for it. They head for the auto gyro, and the jazz here is fantastic. They take off and circle back around to grab. Yeah.
Sorry, I just want to point out, like, I love this. Earlier there was a moment where his two boys are waiting, and they're like, "It's been a long time. What are we gonna do?" Like, and the ninja guy's like, "He knows us. He'll figure out a way to get a sign, to tell us what's up." And then when it happens,
burning the counterfeit money, man. It's just
and he's like, "That's
so
the
cool.
sign." No, was that? Yeah, that was. You're right. Yeah, that was so cool.
Up in the room, of course, Clarisse tries to break the glass with a chair, but it's like indestructible. Fujiko has a better idea. She uses a grenade, but that barely leaves a scratch. Lupin, of course, when they pull up, he motions for them to head up to the roof. Fujiko spots the Count's men moving in and opens fire with a submachine gun. They hop up onto the roof, and Zenigata tries to maneuver the auto gyro into place until a bullet tears through Lupin's chest and takes down the plane. Clarisse uses her body as a shield to protect Wolf, but the Count opens fire anyway, and she strikes a deal with him. He says, marry me, and I'll let you both live. Bring me the ring, and I'll spare his life. Of course, as he does that, he whispers to Johto, he's like, the second she's clear, just fucking, the second I have that ring, just mow them all down. I don't even care anymore. Just kill him. Fujiko tells Clarisse where the ring is hidden, because she's like, I don't even have it. And she's like, it's in the back of his collar, and because she knows him so well, and I love that. As she walks back to the Count, the auto gyro, of course, flies back in. Fujiko sees her opportunity, and she jumps down, grabs Wolf, and hops aboard as Clarisse is in the clutches of the evil Count. The auto gyro, of course, crashes, and as it crashes, Lupin flies out, and he's with his suit jacket on fire. And this is another great Goemon moment where the car pulls up, and you just see one swipe, and then all of his clothes come off, and the fire's gone. And I love that very much. Zenigata, of course, makes yeah, there you go. Over at the UN.
In the sub, yeah, at that point, Goemon's like, another useless life form to waste my sword on, or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, it's really cool.
Zenigata is back over at the UN, sort of. He's making his case, but they're not buying it because they're all crooked. Fed up, he walks out past the ranks of his men, and he's very defeated. Over at the palace, Jigen and the groundskeeper nurse Lupin back to health. Old Carl the dog has taken a liking to him, and Lupin, of course, wakes up and recognizes him from the last time he was there. He's been unconscious for 3 days. They got to move out. They got to go save the princess. He's like, I need my strength, and we get a little fun, silly moment where they feed him too much, and he ends up turning green. And then there's a second where there's a beat, and he just goes, "It was 10 years ago." And Jigen goes, "What was 10 years ago?" And then he's like, "I was a naive young thief looking for that big score." And then he got shot in the back with arrows, barely made it to cover before passing out, where he was found by, of course, Clarisse, who helped nurse him back to health. And then so we get that backstory a little bit. Then, they get a message, of course, from Fujiko. She passes the team a note saying that a newspaper saying that the Archbishop is going to arrive for the ceremony, of course, which gives them the idea they need to sneak back into the castle. And then she calls Zenigata and tells him that Lupin's going to hit the ceremony tomorrow. And he's like, "That's all I needed. I just need someone to give me another excuse to get back in there." And we don't really know what they're up to yet, but I love how the plan comes to fruition in a few minutes. The following day, of course, an avalanche has blocked the road for the Archbishop, which you kind of get the sense they did that. Of course, the groundskeeper talks the Archbishop into, I love this little scene. He's like, "My goat's sick. Can you bless my goat?" And the guy's like, "You're from around here. How do we get out of here?" He's like, "Oh, it's this way." And you have to imagine about 5 minutes later, they just beat the Archbishop over the head, knocked him out, and then just, I assume, shaved off his beard and then glued it back to Lupin's face. Does that sound right?
Sure.
No?
Yeah.
Okay.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. Cool.
Totally.
I love how everybody in the crowd, by the way, when we eventually get to the wedding scene or whatever, 99% of the dudes are just like big dudes with giant mustaches. Like they're so tall.
Andy, it was the 70s, and the only way going into the 80s to combat the lasers was mustache, was giant mustaches. That's why people had so many of them in the 80s. That Magnum PI, perfect example. The whole show is about fighting lasers. Fujiko, of course, sneaks back in to the castle under the disguise of a news media outlet. The proceedings will be televised, so everyone will know it is legit. Day turns to night as the clock tower strikes midnight. Apparently, this wedding is very, very late for some reason. I'd be like, can we get married at 8? Because I usually go to bed by midnight. That's when I'm watching Friends. Clarisse is escorted to the altar by the Count, and she does not seem with it. Of course, the Count is, how can you blame her? The Count is dressed like a pimp. Like this helmet that he's wearing and this cape that he's wearing. I'm like, this is how you get married in your country? Sign me up, guys, because I love wearing capes. Remember, again, I was the band leader, and I got to wear a cape. I forgot the name. Drum major. That's what I used to be. That joke's done.
Right.
Let's move on.
The band leader.
Once at the altar, of course, the bishop asks.
The band man.
That was the band man. Once at the altar, the bishop asks for proof. And this is where it gets a little murky. He's like, I need to see your proof that you're heirs to the Cagliostro family. And they both show him rings. And I asked this question, and it is rhetorical. We do not need the answer. Are they cousins? Are they cousins?
I had that question through the whole thing because they're like,
Very
we're
weird.
both Cagliostros and we need to be together for this to happen. I'm like,
Yeah.
But it could,
It's a little strange.
It's possible it's maybe really, really, really far removed.
Yeah, he did
distant
explain that the
relative.
family split a long time
Because of the
ago.
ancestry.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then
Tim, 19 years.
Hey.
19 years.
Hey.
Lupin comes over the loudspeaker, of course. Well, first he asks Clarisse for her consent to be married, and he goes, well, if you don't say anything, I'll take your silence as consent. And I'm like, I don't know if that's the right way to do that.
So bizarre. Like that whole thing was just such a weird thing where it's like no one in the room's gonna go, that sounds wrong. That sounds like they did something to silence her.
There definitely had to have been a lot of people in the crowd like, I don't know about this.
she was drugged, right? That's why her pupils were gone.
Oh,
Yes. Yeah. He says that later. He's like, look at her. She's clearly drugged. She's clearly not of sound mind. She can't make this. Of course, she comes over the loudspeaker and starts saying all these things. As he does so, the Goemon slashes the altar. It falls down, and we see Lupin being lifted up, and his face is all wrapped up like a mummy. And he's clearly been badly injured, but he's still taking the Count on. Nevertheless, let's see, the bishop goes, oh my God, this stuff's going down. So he grabs Clarisse and tries to protect her. Lupin tells the audience she's been drugged. And of course, the Count's like, fuck it, I just don't care anymore. Kill him. And they just, in front of everyone, just stab the shit out of Lupin. But of course, it's not Lupin. His body explodes and all the counterfeit currency pops out, and then the bishop reaches over and snatches the ring from the Count, and it's been Wolf the entire time, which is great because now you know the wedding can't be legitimized because he's not a real bishop unless he has done some weird shit that I don't know about. Yeah. He pulls a Fred and George Weasley as he lights off a bunch of fireworks inside the main hall. Fujiko, of course, jacks one of the assassins and turns the camera back on so she can keep filming. Zenigata rolls in and all hell breaks loose. Zenigata, this is the best scene in this whole movie, where Zenigata's like, Fujiko's just narrating this like the wide world of sports, and Zenigata's pointing. She goes, he's pointing down to something. He's like, I don't know I think Wolf went down here, and everyone's watching at home. Like, he didn't go down there. What the hell is Zenigata playing at? And then they go downstairs, and he's like, oh my God, a counterfeiting ring.
This?
I discovered
Weird.
this perfectly on accident through no fault of my own. Such a good moment.
Yeah, I mean, they also had that awesome line, but prior to when all the money is burning and everything, and Zenigata's down there with Lupin, and that's when they have like that little truce moment, and he's like, I won't collude with you or whatever. But then Zenigata's like, they're like, we need to go, and Zenigata's like, I need proof that this is happening down here. And so this is the perfect moment for him to sort of shine a light on all this. I love all of this. It's so good.
Yeah, and to back that up, of course, they cut back to all the corrupt politicians and foreign leaders, and they go, we'll never cover this up, just to let the audience know that the jig is up. Jigen, of course, covers Wolf and Clarisse with his just comically massive sniper rifle. And I love the image of him in the fedora with the sniper rifle and then Goemon with his samurai sword. I'm like, that's just dope. Before they escape, of course, Clarisse runs back to them, which I think is a very endearing moment. If you watch in Japanese, she basically just like thanks them for for like being honorable and like saving her.
I
And
love
she's like,
you
"There's."
so much.
She calls Jigen noble Jigen, and he's like, "Nobody's ever called me that before." And like, you just tell that like Goemon and Jigen have never, like, no one ever gives them props because Goemon just goes fucking nuts and jumps down into the middle of all these assassins, and he's like, "It's unfortunate for you guys because my blade is very thirsty tonight."
Holy shit.
I'm like, all right. Well.
In the dub, her saying goodbye to them seemed really odd in the sense that like
Right.
it sounded like she was like she knew they were signing up for death.
Yeah, she was like, "I love you so much," or like it was really over the top. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay.
In
You're
that when
really
you watch
thankful.
it, when you watch it subbed, she just says like, "I can never repay this debt that you guys have. You saved my life. Like it's a debt of honor that I owe you," something like that. Now it's a lot. It's a lot less like childish, I think. Of course, out on the water, Clarisse tells Lupin the rest of the prophecy. Fortune shall be yours when vision is restored to the one who faces sunrise. And then Lupin goes, "I have figured it out." The Count catches up to them as they climb the clock tower. Lupin tries to pull a gun. And this is, by the way, this is the first time Lupin ever pulls out a gun in the entire movie, and it immediately gets melted by, Andy? Lasers. Lasers again.
Oh, sorry, my mic was muted. Lasers.
Lasers. Okay, it's terrifying. They can melt metal, Andy.
Quick.
And they can pierce through
We
your
gotta-
eye.
I like how
gotta
it
be
melted
careful.
the gun, but it didn't melt the bars.
Yeah, I know. Let's see. Pinned down, they jump on the gears and run up to the top of the bell tower. One poor son of a bitch just gets smashed to death, and that was that
The
part Kevin
scene
was
is
talking about earlier.
awesome.
Terrifying.
Yeah, this scene went
So
from
great.
like, oh, everything's fun to like, oh shit, the stakes are real. Because
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
like pulls her away and like, don't see, and it just
Yeah, don't look.
Yeah. Also,
Dude, on top of that,
uh,
like this is a perfect example of like these animators and just designers trying to push themselves. Where it's like there didn't need to be this many gears in this scene,
Right.
and like
No.
the
Movie-
choreography didn't need to be this like over the top and ridiculous. Like when they get to the big gear and they're both fighting each other, and it's
Right.
constantly going, so they have to be constantly moving.
Yeah.
That means they needed to animate that. They
Mhm.
could have just not
No.
done that. And it's like that. I love those little elements because you can always tell when a creator's like, no, fuck that. I'm making it harder for myself
Yeah.
because
Let's
it's
do
gonna
it. Yeah.
it's gonna make it that much more
Gotta bump
unique
the lamp,
and that
man.
much more cool. You know, it
Love it.
reminded me a lot of Shanghai Nights.
Oh yeah,
Wow,
yeah,
what a
yeah.
movie.
What
a movie.
that's a good pull. That's a good pull.
When are we
we
doing
have the
that?
fun scene where they're Lupin, of course, is fighting the Count with the wrench, and they're on the two gears that are rotating opposite. So
Mhm.
as they come together, they clink, and they go back and they clink. And then, of course, the whole thing culminates with the Count getting the better of Lupin. He gets knocked into some gears, and he chases Clarisse out onto the face of the clock. And again, this is another one of those moments where I'm like, it's so beautifully animated because I start getting like, holy shit, they're really high up there. She reaches, of course, the tip of the minute hand as the Count kind of like chases her out, and he demands the ring, and you get the thought like, okay, she's not going to give in to this guy, she's just going to jump. Of course, Wolf pops out, and he's like, listen, I know the answer to the riddle. If you let her go, I'll give you these two rings, and it's basically you just put them up in that goat's eyes, which thankfully someone has built a cute little staircase that goes right up to the goat. So you're like a little ladder in bricks, so you don't even have to worry about this. But he stands on the edge of the hour hand and then lets him kind of come to him. Of course, the Count's like, you know what? Or I could just shoot you with my finger rockets and kill you both, and just none the wiser, even though I've just tried to commit murder on national television and everyone knows I'm a counterfeiter. So I probably should be running right now, but I still want this treasure. He blasts Lupin, who falls off, almost hanging on edge. And then I think Clarisse attacks him. She tries to stop him from killing Wolf, but gets knocked over. And then Wolf just says, screw it, and dives off, grabs her, tucks to both their heads as they plunge into the water below. And the Count climbs up. Now, do you guys think that Lupin knew what was going to happen here, and that's why he makes the Count do it, or do you think this is just how it turned out?
I think it's just how it turned out.
Yeah, I got that vibe too.
Yeah.
Because the Count, of course, climbs up and puts both of the rings in the goat head, and then everything starts going crazy, and the minute hand and the hour hand come back, and they converge upon midnight, which, of course, has the unfortunate or fortunate effect of just
Crushing
crushing
him to
the
death.
Count in
Popping
the
him
middle
like
of
How
it.
would you avoid that? Like
Jump
You
in the
jump.
water like Lupin did.
I guess.
I think we got one way out of that.
Very fair.
I thought he could have just grabbed on like one. of
Yeah,
the hands,
like-
but
Also,
then-
yeah,
but
totally an
his-
option.
he was too far gone when his like body was being contorted and
Oh
shit.
my
Like,
god,
oh, dude.
that was
That was bad.
really
Yeah.
something interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. The clock tower, of course, rings as the aqueduct below explodes, and the clock tower itself sinks into the water. And then the next day, as the sun rises, Wolf and Clarisse walk out to discover that the lake has been drained, and in its place, they see a vast ancient Roman city, which Wolf explains is the priceless treasure for all mankind, except for Wolf, because it's too big, as he says, to carry with him. And he's like, well, it sucks for me. Of course, Lupin watches as Interpol officers start parachuting in, and he's like, that's my cue to leave. But Clarisse wants him, she wants to go with him. She loves him, but Lupin knows that he's not the kind of guy she should go for. He says, you don't want to get mixed up with a thief just as you're starting a wonderful new life. She tries to kiss him, of course, and he stops her and instead kisses her on the forehead because he loves her like a sister, apparently. Carl and the groundskeeper catch up to her. They wave as Jigen and Goemon pull up in the Fiat, and Lupin jumps in and waves goodbye. Moments later, Zenigata catches up, and Clarisse tells him that he should not be trying to arrest Wolf. He should be rewarding Wolf. But Zenigata says, nope. He tells her that Lupin came here to steal something, and I think he succeeded. He succeeded in stealing your heart, and it is therefore my duty to catch him.
Line.
I love it. I love
like
it. I'm such a stupid romantic. He goes, he stole your. He just needs to go after Wolf. He's like, I gotta catch him. I gotta catch him.
Reason. Yeah.
And yeah, basically, but you get that moment where he's like, he kind of salutes her and goes after like. It's all part of the adventure.
I got the feeling that that Lupin sort of had a stage 5 clinger moment with with her because he was like, oh, like now this is a real
she was
thing.
like, I'll be a thief if I have to, and he's like, nah, I'm good. I'm good.
Gotta doing my own thing, man.
Zenigata and all of his men roll out and wave to the princesses as they disappear. And then Fujiko, of course, as the team is riding in their Fiat, Fujiko pulls up on a dope ass motorcycle, and he's like, "Sorry, this was a bus." She goes, "I got what I came for," and he looks down and sees the counterfeit plates in her satchel, and then she just immediately jets off as Zenigata catches up to them, and then the camera, of course, pans up as the inspector chases Wolf into the horizon.
And then they like caught up to them. Like when you look at it, it's like they surround him. It's like, oh, I guess he's done for.
He's done.
That's it for them. 7 syllables in the middle. You'll need 5 for the first and last line. If you're not poetic, no need to fret it. Haikus don't need to rhyme. Haiku in review. Haiku in review.
Ladies and gentlemen, you can go to patreon.com/kindafunny to write your review in haiku form, just like Sam Mosher did. Sam says, what a fun first flick. Not as deep as later films, but lasers are cool. Lasers are cool. And the quote that the quote I wrote down today from Nick is, if you were born in the 80s, it's not about if you are paranoid about lasers. It's about if you're paranoid enough.
In Tim's case, lasers are a good thing. Lasers are a good thing in Tim's case, actually.
Yeah,
Exactly.
now because
Yeah.
they've been used for good.
Well,
You know?
if you
just
were
like
born,
nuclear energy is a good thing, but back in the 80s, it was terrifying. Everyone thought it was horrible.
if you were born in the 90s, lasers were cool, right? Like I feel like
Yeah.
we were taught that
totally.
like, lasers are the dopest.
Yeah.
Mo Beta Mark says Lupin is the wolf. Started off chasing diamonds, wound up stealing hearts.
Love that. Yes.
Neo Cho says feel good anime. Music gets me every time. Trust the thief's magic.
Man, I
I
just cannot wait for the rest of this damn series. I'm so excited for the rest of this.
That's fun.
I'm excited. I'm really excited for Mononoke because that's one that I saw when I was 15,
I've never
maybe,
seen it. I can't wait.
and
It's
it's
great.
violent and magical and awesome.
It's super
Like, I can't
violent
fucking
and
wait.
so epic.
Yeah.
Air Barber says, what am I missing? This movie was only fine. Who are these people?
Oh.
Oh.
And the final one is
Tim,
Engine
you forgot to
25.
read the rest of that where he's like, JK, this movie's dope. Lasers are scary.
Engine 25, the last one for today,
Wait,
says
hold on.
a
And just
solid,
ending in haiku is great, Nick.
That's how you got to do it. That's how you
Haiku.
got to do it, Kev.
a solid fun film. Lacks the magic I expect from Ghibli movies. Well, we have many more to get to see if we get some of that magic for you.
You know what it sort of reminds me of? It reminds me of like when J.J. Abrams makes a Mission Impossible movie, or when Brad Bird makes a Mission Impossible movie, and it's it's these sort of big directors kind of taking on a different franchise and putting their own spin on it. Not that I know anything about the Lupin the third franchise, but it's cool that these big names were working on stuff that wasn't necessarily their own IP. I'm really into that. concept.
I was trying to explain it to Gia because she's never seen any of these. Well, I guess she saw Totoro when she was little, but like she doesn't understand what a Miyazaki movie is necessarily, and definitely doesn't know Lupin, and anime is not her thing. And I was trying to explain it to her, and it was kind of tough to be like, okay, yeah, it's not Studio Ghibli because it wasn't formed yet. This was his first movie, but it's someone else's thing. It's not his ideas and stuff. And I was like, it's kind of like it's Taika Waititi in Thor Ragnarok, where it's like it's an established thing, but it's like with a real tone and vibe that is unique to their vision.
Yeah, and I of course the logo treatment and everything that I did for Ghibli in review, and even that Cameron Kennedy worked on, which I took a lot of influence from. There's no logo for Miyazaki, so that's why I just made it Studio Ghibli in review. Like Miyazaki doesn't have a logo necessarily.
Well, I'm calling it like the whole thing's being called Studio Ghibli Miyazaki in review, so it's like. There's some more context there. Anyways, we're not going to do Ragu Bagu for this and we're not even going to do Ragu Gugu.
Oh, I'm not right. I was writing it down. Okay.
Because we can if you want to, but I think that for this, what would make more sense for the Miyazaki movies would just be doing an MVP. Where who do you think is the MVP of or what is the MVP of this movie?
I think Wolf is.
I don't know. I feel like the protagonist. It's too easy to make the protagonist the MVP.
Right.
You know?
Sometimes they deserve it though.
Yeah, but I like the girl with the grenades. Yeah, Fujiko. Yeah. Fujiko mine, right?
Belinda, what are you saying?
I said I like Jigen a lot in this, like as a sidekick that's like super supportive and was like, let's go. Like he's a ride or die.
Yeah.
But was he the most valuable player,
I mean, he had a giant sniper rifle.
Fujiko was. That's all I'm saying.
I would actually,
she saved
we're
the
not
day
giving it to the
multiple
protagonist,
times.
I give it to Fujiko because Fujiko was the one that brought them all back together and kind of had the plan.
Not only that, at the end, she wins. Like she gets what she was coming for.
Yeah,
She's balling out now. She's selling those plates for a couple mil. Balling out.
I'll give it a Fujiko as well. Yeah, I also love her just piecing out at the end with the flying like device. It's so ridiculous.
I like how she has her own agenda the whole time. Like she's not part of this. She's just like
she's down to help.
Yeah.
And I'm also probably just always gonna lean towards giving the MVP to a side character. I just like that as an idea.
Well, I get I just feel like, especially in a movie like this where it's like Lupin is just a cool guy, it's too easy to be like, oh yeah, Lupin gets it,
Yeah.
Dude,
007 can't be the MVP every time.
She ends up in like tiger striped camouflage at the end with like a submachine gun Uzi just strapped around her shoulder.
There's no question. It's so
and
fun.
a motorcycle.
And a motorcycle with the plates. She gets out. She made it out better than everyone else in this movie for sure.
She goes to grenades so quick.
Kevin, that would be you.
Yeah,
Kevin, let's open this door. I got a grenade
done.
for it. No, I have the key.
So here we go. Obviously, Castle Cagliostro currently number 1. Next week we will return. Which actually I don't even know which the next movie is. Do any of you know off the top of your head?
No idea.
According to your thing, it's Nausicaa and the Valley of the Wind.
And the Valley of the Wind.
Yeah. There you go. So that is going to be next Tuesday. We have Memento for Nolan in review. So that's exciting too. Haven't seen that either. So it's going to be a fun week for me. Ladies and gentlemen, again, patreon.com/kindoffunny. If you want to write your haikus, then that we would really very much appreciate. Maybe Nick will change it, remix it. Who the hell knows? Hopefully there's some lasers in Nausicaa for you, Nick, but I
don't think there are.
I don't think there are.
Belinda,
for now.
Thank you for joining us for this. We will see you again next week. Till next time. Love you guys.